Pope Francis is beginning his final day in Latin America with a visit to one of Paraguay's poorest neighbourhoods. The pontiff has been on an 8-day tour of some of the most impoverished countries in the region. His focus is on recognising those who suffer and making them feel seen and heard. He will also be delivering Mass and meeting with young people before heading back to Rome. Rosa Flores is covering the Pope's tour and joins us now. And Rosa, it seems he's really gone back to the core of those Christian values of helping the poor and the sick. How is his trip being viewed there by the people?
People are embracing Pope Francis, not only here in Paraguay, but in the other countries that he's been visiting. And as a matter of fact, people are jumping borders and coming to these countries where he is visiting just to make sure that they can see the pontiff, so that they can celebrate Mass with the pontiff. You can see back behind me, there's lots of people here from every corner of this country and the surrounding countries. Now, there are people who are not coming to this Mass because they are actually waiting for Pope Francis. We have live pictures actually from Bañado Norte. This is one of the poorest neighborhoods in Asunción, this country's capital, and they are waiting for the pontiff. He's going to be arriving there in the next few minutes. He'll be spending time with a few people, and we talked to some of those people, and here's what they had to say.
Asunción Jimenez is known as Grandma in the Bañado Norte neighborhood of Paraguay's capital. The 78-year-old welcomes just about anyone into her home. Never thinking Pope Francis would come knocking on her door one day.
Usted siente una emoción. You feel an emotion inside.
The Vatican chose 3 people from this humble neighborhood for a one-on-one visit with Francis, according to organizers, and Asunción is one of them.
¿Qué le va a pedir? What are you going to ask the Pope
Para
for?
que le ponga su bendición a toda mi hija, mi nieto.
She's hoping to ask the Pope for peace, for tranquility for her family.
To prepare for her special guest, she says her son gave her home a fresh coat of paint and her daughter plans to help her cook for the Pope.
She has an open kitchen with a dirt floor and a corrugated metal roof. Now this is her stove. This is where she plans to cook for Pope Francis. You can see it's open flame. And this is the dining table where she hopes to share a meal with the pontiff.
On the menu, a typical Paraguayan soup and mate, a traditional tea.
Para mí que cocina bien rico, ¿eh? We're joking about how her food is probably really good and the Pope is going to enjoy it.
Everyone on her block has been pitching in to prepare for the Pope's visit, dressing Bañado Norte with the colors of the Vatican and messages from some of its children, asking Pope Francis to end corruption and bring peace. Then a question, asking him why God allows street children to suffer. The last time a child asked the Holy Father a similar question, he hugged the girl, dropped his scripted message, and spoke from the heart. Francisca Ramirez is also expecting to visit with the Pope and sing for him in her native Guarani. She and others in the neighborhood wonder why the leader of the Catholic Church would want to visit their humble homes and the tiny chapel where they pray. But during his tour through South America, Pope Francis has made one thing very clear. The worries of the poor are a cross that everyone should bear.
And we're taking a look at these live pictures of Bañado Norte, one of the poorest neighborhoods in Asunción, Paraguay. Now, this is a place that Pope Francis wanted to visit. He wanted to make sure he was on one with the poor in this neighborhood. Now, in this neighborhood, it's very prone to flooding, for example. So these people have lost their homes multiple times in the past. He's going to be speaking to 3 people in particular that the Vatican chose to interact with the pontiff. As you just saw in the piece that we just showed you, one of those women will be cooking for him and welcoming him. Now, we've seen him embrace babies, hug people there in this neighborhood, and it's very much in tune, Lynda, with the message that the Pope is bringing to Latin America, and that is of evangelization, embracing the poor, being one with the poor, and making sure that the world knows that we all need to embrace their needs. Lynda.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we saw some pictures just earlier, a few minutes when you were talking earlier of the Pope receiving pretty much a rock star welcome. He has such a massive following in that part of the world, doesn't he?
He really does. And from talking to people in that neighborhood and others in these three countries, people tell me that they just feel that he's very human, that they identify with him, that his smile is genuine, that his gestures are very genuine, and that they know that deep down he cares about them, and it's important to all of the people in Latin America.
And it was interesting, that lady that you interviewed, how excited they must be that the Pope has chosen to visit there. I mean, we know that the country obviously is racked with poverty. At least 30% of the population live in poverty, and here's the Pontiff coming to that area to visit them.
Yeah, we learned that this neighborhood sent pictures to the Vatican, and that the Vatican chose these three people for the Pope to visit with them. And so they were very excited. They automatically felt that it was a blessing. And some of those ladies that you saw in the piece, they were telling me, Rosa, we just sometimes cry. We just have so much emotion, and we don't know why we're crying. It's just emotion that's flowing through their entire body. And they're like, you know, people ask them, are you hurting? Does something hurt? And they say, no, it's just out of emotion and happiness that Pope Francis decided to visit with them in this particular community. And just another brief little note, you saw all of those messages from those children. One of the organizers tells me that one of those children that wrote a message, and her message was asking Pope Francis a question as to why her parents, for example, have to be in jail, and asking the Pope for help. So we're going to be monitoring this, because the Pope gets very emotional when he speaks to children in this particular in these ways, and these children could be asking the Pope very hard questions.